I have to say, this Mayor Nutter of Philadelphia, of whom I'm not a great fan, has handled himself in a spectacular fashion. Completely hands-on. He's been at that scene. He stays at the scene. And at least so far, he hasn't politicized this. Now, that said, almost since last night, but since early this morning, while emergency personnel are at the crash scene, trying to find bodies, trying to save people, trying to get them to the hospital, early this morning, within hours of the accident, the media, the Democrats, the liberals, in front of the Klieg lights, in front of microphones, all of a sudden it's a spending issue. It's a spending issue. And, of course, they want to spend more. So anybody who does it now is against safety. In fact, they're part of the problem with Amtrak. Now, over the decades, Amtrak has been a financial disaster. When it was originally proposed by Richard Nixon, it was supposed to be self-sufficient. But it's never been self-sufficient. Billions and billions of dollars of taxpayers' dollars has been poured into Amtrak. And its greatest supporter and defender for decades was Joe Biden in the United States Senate, because Joe Biden took the train back and forth from Wilmington. And so it started early this morning on the Today Show, on Good Morning America, on CBS This Morning, on MSLSD, on MSLSD, on MSLSD, over and over and over again. Democrats dressed up as phony journalists, Democrats dressed up as phony politicians. A mantra began. We don't spend enough on infrastructure. We don't spend enough on Amtrak. The Republicans are responsible. They don't believe in spending. On and on. Ladies and gentlemen, when Obama controlled the Senate and the House, the entire Congress, they passed an over $800 billion stimulus program. And you may recall when Paul Ryan was on this program, he doesn't come on anymore, but a few years ago, he said $9 billion of the over $800 billion went to infrastructure. So they stole that money. They were greasing palms. They were sending it to their community interest front groups. They didn't use it for infrastructure, bridges and railroad tracks and all the rest. And so they're pushing hard once more. They want massive spending, not for infrastructure, to spread the wealth yet again, and only, of course, to their supporters. So already they've politicized this. It is grotesque, but it is who they are. This is what they do. Whether it's Baltimore, Maryland, whether it's Ferguson, Missouri, whatever it is, every opportunity is a political opportunity. Mr. Producer put together a brief montage, and it could have gone on for 5 minutes. Right after the Amtrak crash, networks and guests from this morning's TV shows. This morning, early this morning. Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show. Deborah Hirschman, former NTSB chairman on Good Morning America. Nora O'Donnell, CBS This Morning. Representative Jeff Denham on CBS This Morning. Joseph Martinez on New York One. Jose Diaz-Balart on MSNBC. Luke Russert, MSNBC. New York City Mayor Bill DeCamio, MSNBC. And, of course, the fraud Joe Scarborough. Count one, go.
And another issue people have raised is that because this is such a heavily traveled section of track, that there are also infrastructure issues, whether or not the track was well maintained, whether or not it was aging.
We have to invest in our infrastructure to make sure that it's in good repair and that it's going to last us.
You know, and this also comes at a time that Amtrak itself has been pushing for hundreds of millions of dollars in federal money to upgrade the railway systems.
I think the main thing that it will help on the Northeast corridor, it'll actually keep those profits on the corridor so that they can reinvest in their infrastructure.
Amtrak officials and transportation experts have warned is badly in need of upgrades to its infrastructure.
Yeah, well, and also I imagine that now we'll be talking about funding, and as you say, Luke, maybe not today, but this is going to have to be dealt with.
And what sort of funding mechanisms could be tapped so that this type of incident does not happen in the future?
This country actually has to invest in infrastructure the way other countries do.
This is a safety issue, but this is a money issue, too.
I don't get it. This nation is over $200 trillion in debt. The fiscal operating debt is $18.5 trillion. Trillions. If there's no money for Amtrak's rail tracks, and if it's that dangerous, and if it caused this accident, which at least on first notion it did not, but let's say it did, who's responsible for that? Who is the President of the United States? Who runs the executive branch? Who has a $4 trillion budget every year to manage? Obama does. Now, he says he has a pen and a phone. Is it only for illegal immigration? Is it only to violate the Constitution? Is it only for same-sex marriage? I don't get it. If this is a priority, then why haven't they done anything about it? And yet they make all these statements without knowing any facts. None. They didn't know what we now know, thanks to the National Transportation Safety Board, telling us that that train was going over double the speed in that sharp turn outside of Philadelphia, actually inside of Philadelphia, and that caused the entire train to jump the tracks at over 100 miles an hour. And it broke up like orange juice cans. No talk about privatizing Amtrak. No. No talk about the union in Amtrak. No, can't do that. It's a spending issue. How do they know it's a spending issue? Because they want it to be a spending issue. One of the dumbest men in the U.S. Senate elected from Florida is this guy, Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson. Even before he has the facts. On MSLSD, cut 2, go.
You go back when we were in the depths of the recession, the stimulus bill, we tried to get a lot more money into infrastructure.
Let's stop. This guy is a lying sack of you-know-what. Tried to get more money into infrastructure? That stimulus bill passed when the Democrats controlled every elected body in the federal government. The House, the Senate, the presidency, the vice presidency. What do you mean you tried to get more infrastructure? There was tons of infrastructure. They diverted the money to reward their friends. They saw it as a payday. They made a run on the Treasury. Go ahead.
And railroads and all of the infrastructure that's falling.
Boy, is this guy dumb as a doorknob or what? Florida, what the hell? Go ahead.
We tried to get it, and we didn't get the votes. There are not the votes.
Oh, you lying, you know what? You didn't get the votes for what? But here is the icing on the cake. Go ahead.
Here, is it going to take more of these crashes and deaths to wake up the members of Congress who keep wanting to slim down the budgets going into infrastructure?
You know, it is amazing to me. If we had slimmed down budgets, ladies and gentlemen, if we had slimmed down budgets, they're spending like drunken Marxists. Money's being thrown at everything and everywhere. Money we don't have, money we will never have, money your children are going to spend the rest of their lives trying to earn and pay off. Just privatize it. Just privatize Amtrak. Does the federal government privatize anything? Does the federal government ever give back anything? Does the federal government ever shrink itself? Does the federal government ever say we're not capable of running something? I mean, here's a guy damning the Democrats who ran Congress in the stimulus bill, damning his own president, damning himself, that even when they had the most profligate spending Congress in world history and the most profligate president in world history, it wasn't enough. Well, that tells me they can't manage Amtrak. But he wasn't alone. The fraud who pretended to fight in Vietnam, the senator from Connecticut, the nutmeg state. Cut 3, go.
This absolutely avoidable tragedy.
Stop. How does he know it was avoidable? Avoidable? We don't have all the facts yet. Go ahead.
Could have been prevented by sufficient investment. And
investment? Oh, good Lord. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we need to spend more money in Baltimore where the people are burning down their own communities. That's the problem, not enough money. Yes, the problem with Amtrak wasn't the engineer or whatever. We don't even know yet. We already know, though, that they just don't spend enough money. Ladies and gentlemen, if we spent all the money the liberals wanted us to spend, we'd run out of money. We'd even run out of pretend money. It doesn't exist. And then we'll continue. Go ahead, cut 3.
More investment. We spend a pittance of what's necessary.
There we go. Well, the Democrats have the solution. More money. More money, more spending, more taxing.